I'm Mark,
And I'm Josh.
and this is Alter Ego Comics TV. Lots of great stuff this week, as usual, so let's roll right into it. Because Canadians demanded it, and probably a few Americans, Alpha Flight is back in a point one issue, written by Fred Van Lente and Greg Pak. And a lot of people I've talked to are really excited about this. You've got your traditional Alpha Flight team: Aurora, North Star, Snowbird, Shaman, Sasquatch, Guardian, Vindicator, and Marina. That's right. Apparently, Puck is still dead in this continuity. Last time we saw Puck, he was in hell with Wolverine, so that's why he's not here. But for Alpha Flight fans, this is obviously a great jumping out point. It's point one issue, sets things up. The first issue is a Fear Itself tie-in, and looks to be pretty exciting. So for those of you that like Canadians, have a fondness for Alpha Flight, it's on the racks again. Pick it up. As someone else said, dreams do come true.
All right, Booster Gold 44. This is a Flashpoint tie-in, and Booster's actually, I believe, the only one that has Flashpoint stuff in his own series because as the protector of the timeline, he would be involved in the universe being all wonked up. And this is actually a decent jumping on point. I hadn't read Booster weekly in a while. I've been doing it in trades, but I didn't have any trouble picking up, following. And it has that great interplay with Booster and Skeets, and you see what happens when the greatest hero the world will never know pops into a different world. And it's good.
He actually pops into his world, but it's different. Not a different world.
The world is different.
The
But
world
they
is
still
different.
don't know
So apparently Barry Allen and Booster are the only two that
thus far.
know what's going on. Good stuff. If you like Flashpoint, pick up Booster.
Absolutely.
X-Men Giant Size #1, not to be confused with Giant Size X-Men #1 or anything like that. This is the beginning of a multi-part storyline called First to Last, which involves something that happened with the original X-Men team and something also going on in the present with the team on Utopia. And that's why we have kind of the classic X-Men busting through the current X-Men lineup. The artwork by Paco Medina, which is the modern stuff, is awesome. The flashback stuff is really cool too. Something that has to do with the evolutionaries is the name of the villain or hero or the race that we encounter in this that apparently has been around since the dawn of time and is now trying to save, their mission in life has been to save Homo Superior, and they're just doing some really bad stuff to keep mutants around. And Cyclops is kind of the focal point of this storyline. So it starts in X-Men Giant Size #1, and then the next part is in the core X-Men series, and that should be coming out soon.
And something else crazy is happening to the X-Men. We've got X-Men Prelude to Schism 2. I really like the first issue of the series where it focused on Xavier and Cyclops' relationship. This one focuses primarily on Magneto and to a lesser extent his relationship with Cyclops. We see a lot of backstory, some of which goes back to things we learned in Magneto Testament. Some things are new to the best of my knowledge. And it's another really good character issue where we remember why Magneto is reasonably awesome, even if he's also moderately evil. And if you're an X-Men fan, you definitely don't want to miss it.
Time for my public service announcement. Witchblade 144. Witchblade has been a truly awesome series since Ron Mars took over as writer back around issue 80. So it's been a very long time that Ron Mars and his artistic collaborator, the guy whose name I can't pronounce, Stefan Stepchik, something like that. The artwork is really cool. It's all digitally done, but it looks outstanding. Anyway, issue 144 is a fantastic jumping out point. It kind of retells the Witchblade and Sarah, well, not the Witchblade's origin, but Sarah's origin with the Witchblade, and sets up some plot points moving forward. It's an anniversary issue. I believe it's 15 years since Witchblade first appeared on the scene, so it's very cool that you've got a female in the lead of her own comic book series that's been published consistently for 15 years, and you don't see that really anywhere else, to the best of my knowledge. So excellent jumping on point. We actually have copies for the shelf. We're hoping that people jump on board and take advantage of this because a lot of you are buying the trades. You're buying the Witchblade trades as they come out, especially the $5 introductory trades. So the best way to keep a series going is to buy it in monthly format, and now is a great time to check it out.
All right, and we've got Herc 3, which is a Fear Itself tie-in. And we have Herc not wearing his little skirt and diaper combo.
Aww.
Aww. But still great dialogue by Pack and Fred Van Lente. We've got some villains breaking out of the raft, as we saw the raft go down in Fear Itself 2-ish. And they're in New York, and as we know, Brooklyn is now protected by the Lion of Olympus, even though he is no longer empowered. And he's fighting off some superpowered villains with his bag of tricks and ancient weapons. And just a lot of fun, a classic beat 'em up story, a lot of good, just great fun dialogue. And you should be reading it, and you should definitely check it out.
Batman Gates of Gotham, issue number 1, first of 5 issues, first of 5 parts. Co-written by Scott Snyder and Kyle Higgins, and Scott Snyder's awesome.
He really
Scott,
is.
if you're watching this,
We love you.
American Vampire kicks all kind of butt. Detective Comics is the best Batman book on the racks these days, and there are a lot of good ones, so that's tough competition. Gates of Gotham is an interesting type of book because it's kind of picking up a number of plot threads or plot lines that were started by Grant Morrison and Scott Snyder in Snyder's first arc on Detective, and then some of the Grant Morrison stuff that happened in the core Batman book, having to do with the different families of Gotham that have been the pillars of Gotham for years and years. The Elliots, the Waynes, the Canes,
Cobblepots.
the Cobblepots, and there's a mystery going on. You're seeing the story told in 2 different time frames, one back, I believe, in the 1800s, and one in present day. Or maybe it was the 1900s.
I think it was 1800s.
It was the 1800s. But again, Snyder knocks it out of the park with this one. You've got a lot more interplay between the different Bat family characters. Cassandra Cain is there. Tim is there. Damien's there. Dick is there as Batman. And just a lot of cool stuff. It's a very solid, excellent first issue, and Batman fans will absolutely want to check it out. And those of you that have been hesitant to read a Scott Snyder Batman book because you think Bruce should be the only one that's Batman, you really should pick this up and give it a try.
All right, Astonishing X-Men 38. Now, this is the first Astonishing X-Men by the new creative team of Christos Gage and
That guy.
Juan Babillo. Babillo. Hi, Juan. It was great. I had followed Astonishing pretty religiously when Whedon was writing it. I wasn't overly impressed with Ellis's work, but I really enjoyed this issue. We've got the return of kind of a more classic X-Men feel. We've got Lockheed and Kitty back together again. We've got the Brood as the bad guys, and
Sword, Abigail Brand.
Beast, drawn all wonky.
Beastly, yes.
Can we just get on a page and all draw Beast the same way? Because that'd be awesome. But no, if you went away from Astonishing or want to pick up a new X book, this is a great read and an easy jumping on point.
And the stuff with Lockheed is awesome.
Yeah, it really is.
I'm a huge Rocketeer fan. Rocketeer Adventures #1 came out this week, which is an anthology series from IDW. A couple of years ago, the Rocketeer hardcover came out, which was collecting the entire Rocketeer saga by Dave Stevens. And this is getting some of the top names in the business together to do little short stories in the Rocketeer universe. The first one kicks off with a John Cassaday story that he drew and wrote, and for my money, it's a return to excellence by John Cassaday in the art department because he's been doing covers for Marvel and DC for a while that have been kind of lackluster in my opinion. But he actually pencils, a 5 or 6 page story here, and it's really good. It looks really good. It also reads very well. You've got a story from Mike and Laura Allred of Madman fame. You've got a Kurt Busiek story with art by Mike Kaluta. So if you're a fan of the original source material, or a fan of the movie, or just a fan of cool superhero pulpish type stuff from the 1940s, the Rocketeer Adventures is a series you're going to want to get on board with.
Continuing the G.I. Joe Cobra Civil War, we have Snake Eyes #1. Now, as we found out previously, the various members of Cobra are in a competition to see who gets to be the new Cobra commander by taking out the most Joes and doing it in the most explosive or interesting way. And this story follows a mission for Snake Eyes to hunt down someone who's slaughtered a group of people that he trained who were Joes. And it takes us to the side of a mountain, I believe somewhere in like the Himalayas. But it's just great. You get to see Snake Eyes being awesome and ninja-y, and you get good dialogue from the other Joes. And it's just a fun, action-y book that pushes forward the story of the Civil War.
Written by Chuck Dixon,
Written by Chuck Dixon.
who's writing 2 of the 3 G.I. Joe ongoing series, so it's a lot of consistency there. In the trade paperback graphic novel department, after a long wait, it seems, we've got The Stuff of Legend Volume 2. A lot of people picked up and tried Stuff of Legend Volume 1, which is kind of a twist on the Toy Story concept where the toys come to life. But in this case, they do so to save their owner, who's a young child who has gone into his closet with the boogeyman, and we encounter these new realms that exist beyond our realm. So it was a really fascinating read. It's a great book, I think, for not only comic book fans, but for people who may not be reading comics on a regular basis. We have Volume 1 in stock, we now have Volume 2 in stock, and they're both absolutely worth checking out.
And lastly, Star Wars Jedi: The Dark Side #1. This is a new Star Wars series written by Scott Alley, editor at Dark Horse, and this follows about 50 years before the first movie, A New Hope. And we see Qui-Gon Jinn with one of his previous Padawans before Obi-Wan, and who's being lured to the dark side by his pride and, the usual things: fear, anger, hate. And it's just it's always nice to see a Star Wars story in a timeline we're not overly exposed to, because a lot of it gets played over and over again. I've played the Battle of Hoth on 800 video games, so it's nice to see a new timeline. And Qui-Gon Jinn is a fairly underused character, so it's great to see him in his kind of wry wisdom. So if you're a Star Wars fan, it's definitely worth checking out.
And this is just a sampling of the stuff that came out this week. It's another heavy week. Personally, I had 15 books in my
So
to read
many
stack.
books.
We had Fear Itself showing up in Avengers, in Iron Man. So there's some Fear Itself tie-ins going on for those of you following Fear Itself. Of course, we had Flashpoint tie-in with Booster Gold, and a lot of cool indie stuff too. So come on by, take a look around. We'll give you some recommendations, and there's always cool stuff to be found at Alter Ego Comics. We'll see you next week.